Hello everybody, thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. This is my April 2026 clip and I have been meaning to do this for ages. It's about breathing and how you can optimize the way you breathe. It's going to be a long one, there's going to be quite a bit of talking here, so here goes. So basically breathing is an interplay of volume and pressure. When you breathe in, your big breathing muscle, the diaphragm, contracts down and it pulls the rib cage out. We like to call it in 3 dimensions. So the volume within the rib cage increases and that decreases the pressure in the lungs inside, and the air is sucked into the lungs. And on the way out, the diaphragm rises back up, the rib cage reduces back to resting state, the volume reduces and there's a pressure change and the air is breathed back out again. It's more complicated than that, but I think that simple definition will suffice for us. I said about the big diaphragm muscle also involved our other muscles, notably the intercostals, the ones in between your ribs, but other muscles as well. What I've just described is the ideal if you've got healthy lungs. If you have COPD or asthma, I think things work in a slightly different way, and I do appreciate that, and it's out of the scope of this clip really to talk about how you breathe with COPD. This is for people with healthy lungs. Next, I want to define these dimensions that I've talked about. So when you breathe in, you breathe side to side, the rib cage. Rib cage goes up and then down again, and it also you expand front to back, although the reality of the front to back is most of that expansion is into the back of the rib cage and the lungs. So they're your 3 dimensions. So why does it matter? Well, one case is it's the most fundamental and profound thing of all, isn't it, breathing? So why not make sure it's as optimized and as good as possible? Because of course we're not taught how to breathe. It's just to assume that you can just do it, and we do just do it, but we get by with suboptimal breathing, and I think there's a real case for improving our breathing, not just for the sake of the breathing, but also because the diaphragm is part of your core container. So your inner unit of core stability is the diaphragm at the top, and kind of attaching round to the ribs. At the bottom of your container you have your pelvic floor, and the sides are the deep abdominal wall that goes all the way around here and it sort of it intersects with segmental spine stabilizers called the multifidi. So that is your core container. So if you want optimal core function, you have to have optimal breathing to build on that. Also, again, this clip isn't about pelvic floor function, but if you want healthy, good function in your pelvic floor, you want the breathing. So I described what happened in the rib cage just earlier, but there's an interplay between the breath and the core which affects the function of the pelvic floor. So I'll just explain that. When you breathe in and the diaphragm contracts down and expand the ribs, so that's the rib cage side of things, but your core container moves down, the diaphragm goes down and the pelvic floor expands down and out as well, and the abdominal wall expands out. So that pelvic floor doesn't stretch passively, it expands under load of body weight, and the container shifts ever so slightly. When you breathe out, that stretched, eccentrically loaded pelvic floor has elastic recoil and it contracts back up, and your core comes back up, your core container comes back up, and the diaphragm comes back up, and the abdominal wall goes back in. So every breath you take, pelvic floor widens and contracts back in, and your abdominal wall widens and contracts back in. So the breath core are kind of almost one and the same. And if you want to heal from pelvic floor dysfunction, I think to get the breathing really good is a really great place to start. So back to the kind of mechanics of the actual breathing itself. I'm going to show you how to kind of feel and increase or expand or optimize your dimensions. But we're starting, most of us, I know this is how I started, not really knowing how I breathed or what it felt like. So these things I'm going to show you are to expand your breathing, but also to learn to feel it. And it's an amazing thing. It can be learned, and then you can sit or lie or stand and say to yourself, I am going to breathe 3-dimensionally, wide and full into my lungs. Just before we do the dimensions, one important point. We're working very much on the in-breath here. Now you can, because of that, we're going to almost over-in-breathe, and that can affect your blood chemistry, the balance of the carbon dioxide and oxygen in your blood. So what the breathing needs is an equal balance of both. The in and the out breath. We are overly focused on the in-breath. So to keep your blood chemistry in nice balance, it's a really good idea to breathe in and pause and then breathe out again. We're not going to harm ourselves with over-in breathing. You'll feel maybe lightheaded or faint, and that's your body saying too much in-breathing. So just do bear that in mind. Or if you forget the breath holding and you suddenly find yourself yawning, that's the reason. So the first dimension I'm going to talk about is the side-to-side ribs. And to really feel that, grab yourself, well, I've got a Dynaband here, or use a yoga strap or a dressing gown belt, and put it around your ribs and have a little bit of pressure, and then breathe into that, into the thing that you're using, so that you can feel the expansion. It's a little bit going to intersect with you going up and down at the front, but essentially we're going side to side. And you really want to you want to feel it, you want to notice it. Now, it does take some getting used to, so maybe try this for 30 seconds or a minute each day, and I honestly, after a while, this movement will come on side and you'll think, oh, how come I never noticed that before? Another thing is, you might think, well, I don't know what to do here. So to be honest, you can't show it like you can at a squat or a lunge. So it may seem like a strange cue, but fake it till you make it. So you got your band, or maybe you haven't got a band and you're just using the heel of your hand. Say to yourself, okay, well, how would I make my ribs expand? What do I have to do? How do I send my ribs into my fingers? And sort of ask yourself that question to sort of try and kind of make the muscles do the thing. They're already doing it. It's just that you're not feeling it, but it is feelable. So that's the side-to-side dimension. The best way to do the up-down is lying on your back. I find it's easy with straight legs, but if that hurts your back, then bent knees. Or, to be honest, you can do it in a chair, because you might find yourself with time in a chair, but not lying down. But even better is if you can lie over a yoga bolster. I've just got some blankets there. So it makes the ribs flare up and out. So it's an exaggerated stance, but this enables me to feel the up and down far more effectively. So this exaggerated back extended position to get the up. Think church bells swinging. Up. It's Holy Week as I record this, a very apposite cue. Up and down. It's the up, down aspect of your breathing. So we've got one more dimension, and that is the front to back. Now this is a little bit trickier. My experiences with myself and with other people, it just is. So that's to bear in mind. But on the other hand, you've got more rib and more lung and more capacity there, so it's well worth addressing. So if you feel comfortable to do so, a great way to do it is to slump and curve over, again, a yoga bolster, pillows, or I'm going to use blankets. I'm going to use these things. There, that's better. And there's nothing particularly fancy about this. I'm just slumped down like that. Okay, you're not going to be able to hear me because of my microphone, so I'm going to sit up and say this. So you're going to slump down to create the curve in the spine that enables you to feel the expansion of your ribs at the back. If you've got someone to help, get them to put their hand on your ribs, and that really helps. And then, again, a tactile cue, breathe into the hand. If you don't feel comfortable to slump down like that because it's not good for your spine, then if you lie down on the floor and put your hands or a cushion to support your forehead and do it from there, because again you're a little bit blocking the ribs at the front, so the body has to, it finds it easier to kind of breathe into that other dimension. So there are your 3 dimensions of breathing: side to side, front to back, and up down. So those are the things that we should do when we do a good in-breathe. But what about the things we shouldn't? Well, the first one is belly breathing. Now, belly breathing as a strategy for relaxation and during yoga has its place, but we shouldn't be belly breathing all the time. That's when the volume and the pressure change that should be in the rib cage goes too much into the other cavity. So I'll see if I can stand and demonstrate this. So belly breathing would look like that. There's me breathing into my belly. So confusingly, the abdominal wall should rise when you breathe in, but most of the volume, most of the activity should happen in your rib cage with only reciprocal action, or just a sort of balancing out action. So if you're assessing your own breathing and you maybe put your hand on your belly and you feel a lot of rise and fall, and then you don't feel so much in your ribs, maybe you're a belly breather. So that's a strategy a lot of us use, and we want to sort of learn to expand the ribs with just a little rise in the abdominal wall on the in-breath. So that's one thing that can happen. A second is that because we're stiff in his ribs and his back, there tends to be too much breathing from the shoulders. And it's a strategy that we try and expand the ribs by pulling from above rather than expanding from in here. That's kind of shoulder breathing. So ideally we want to get away from that. And the third thing that happens, and I see those previous two and I see this, which is basically when people breathe, nothing happens at all. So that could be due to sheer stiffness that can happen with age, but I think these days, because of the, and I hate it, but the aesthetic of the flat stomach that's so prevalent in our society, I think there's a lot of people kind of belly suck. So, and if you limit the ability of your abdominal wall to kind of move, then you can limit the breath. And also a lot of cueing of engage your abs, tuck your belly in, pull your belly in, suck your abs in, engage your core, produces this relative stiffness here, which can have a negative effect on the breathing. And I think such is the fear of the belly, I think that people see their belly rise and think that must be a bad thing. But absolutely, for healthy breath core, you want a little bit of belly. So if you think you might be a kind of tight, sucking your abs in kind of person, it's super common. One strategy you can try is to come down into all fours. And you're probably not going to like me for saying this, But see if you can allow the belly, the abdominal wall to relax with gravity. And it can be you can try it lying on your back, but you can also think about it here and use gravity to let the abs relax, and then try and breathe in that position. If you let your abdominal wall relax here, it isn't relaxing in this total passive state. It's hopefully relaxing back to resting state so that it can contract and relax as part of your breath core. That's such a long clip. I hope you found it useful. There's so many things to cover. Do contact me if you think there's something I've missed out, and that's it. You can subscribe for more clips, and I will pop one on the end of here that you might find useful. Cheerio. Hi there. I do hope you found this clip useful. We've got plenty more on the site, and for now I've suggested another one for you to watch. If you want to know more about what we do in Leeds, then do visit the website at pilates-leeds.com, and right now you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we can do this all again next month. Cheerio!